That Philly stuff yesterday is wild.
That's an interesting
situation.
Dude, the NHL, the executives decided to turn it into the GTHL where dads get involved and it's like all these players got this power and now it's the GTHL. It's like, guy hasn't played a game in Philly and he ghosts them at the World Juniors and says, actually, I don't want to talk to you. He gets drafted in Danny Briere. And it just bothers me because I know what kind of guy Danny Briere is and Jonesy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Jonesy's one of the best guys you'll ever meet in the game. And this kid pulled that stunt. And I do get it. There's some times in life where it's like, I got 10 years to do this career. And if you want to pull the Eric Lindros and do it the way you want, but it just seems like a little bit much. The league's got to push back and say, there's got to be some kind of penalty where it's like, because it's going to be the haves and have-nots sooner than later. Kids are going to get drafted up. Everyone's going to say, no, thanks.
Well,
no, thanks.
I mean, that has not been the history. There have been extreme examples of that Lindros being at the forefront. Now, Lindros told Quebec City, don't even take me.
Oh, I know.
I'm
that
not
Adam
coming.
Fox kid, he did it twice. He told the Carolina Hurricanes to stuff it. He told the Calgary Flames to stuff
it. Jimmy Vesey, go ask Nashville. He's like, I'm not signing with you.
Yeah.
I'm out of here. We mentioned Hyman, the same thing. Hyman was drafted by Florida. They're like, he's not going to sign here. We got to flip him. Like, it happens. What makes this so extreme, because even Fox was a third-round pick. We didn't know he was going to turn into this. This Cutter Gauthier is a stud.
Oh, he's a great player.
Like 5th overall, number 1 prospect. He just lit up the juniors for 2 weeks.
Good time to flip him. Great time to flip him.
Well, and listen, if you're Drysdale, you're probably like, hey, man, what about me? Because Tortorella, that was a typical, like, let's play the John Tortorella. Do you have it from postgame? He's asked about the Cutter Gauthier situation, and they just lost to Pittsburgh. So you know the media is like, man, we got to go ask Torts. He's already in a sour mood. They lost to their cross-state rival. And this is what he had to say about the Cutter Gauthier situation last night.
Danny said that Cutter didn't want to play here in Philadelphia and didn't want to play for the Flyers. What's your reaction to that?
Then we don't want you.
I believe you've met Cutter Gauthier before. Were you surprised that he...
I don't know Cutter from a hole in a wall. You know, and I'm not too interested in talking about him. I'd rather talk about Jamie. He's the guy that's coming here.
What do you want him to say? That's what I would say too.
Yeah, I think. Well, it's clearly he's not being truthful that he doesn't know anything about Cutter Gauthier. It's his number 1 prospect on a franchise that is admitted. You know, we're retooling here.
Dude,
we need
other
kids.
than shaking his hand at the draft, how would you know him? It's just like, hey, welcome to the Flyer. He doesn't know him from a hole.
I understand he doesn't know him on a personal level. He knows who he is, though. He knows his value to the franchise. He knows what he is as a player. What I'm saying is I think that part is completely bogus, but he's playing to his market. But I actually liked what he said after that, where he's like, let's talk about Drysdale. He's here. He's my guy now. Let's try to pump his tire. Let's try to pump him up. I'm just saying it's typical. It's theatrical. It's playing to the market. I don't know him from a whole. Yes, you do. He's the number 1 prospect in the organization.
Right. Just won a gold medal for Team USA at the World
Junior Sheldon
Championship.
Keefe's like, I don't know who Easton Cowan. How do you spell his name? Easton Cowan? What's that? Like, and this guy's on a different level. Like the reason they're so pissed off is because he's so good.
Yeah,
he's so good, and they had visions of Cutter Gauthier and this Matvei Michkov teaming up and taking the league by storm for the next decade, and he goes to them, and he wanted out. And I would ask you, because you've been through this experience before.
But before I answer the question, I'm dying to know what the hell his problem was.
Well,
what happened?
That's going to come out.
There's people that is making up garbage saying that Kevin Hayes had something to do with it. And if that's not right, those guys should be fired. I don't know who the hell said that, but that's garbage.
Well, I thought, personally, the organization as a whole, I thought it was embarrassing the way Philly handled it yesterday. And I think it started from the top. The CEO was doing media rounds, carving Gauthier and saying, if
was
you
that
want
necessary? Was all of that even, because nobody knew.
Hey, if somebody pulls
that
stunt, I would carve him too. I would do all that. But the guys that went on the mics and said this might be Kevin Hayes' fault because he might have went and told, that is nonsense.
That's completely bogus. And
that guy's gone through enough garbage to hear that. That is garbage, flat out garbage.
I agree with you, and that was a part of it too. I thought the media really embarrassed themselves because they spoke on behalf of Philly. They took it personally, and I don't know the full reasoning as to what happened here at Gauthier. I would assume it will come out when he gets to Anaheim, assuming he signs there. Anaheim's ecstatic. They'll take him. He's going to have to answer some questions. I think the ghosting of an organization is immature, is silly. Now, his argument will be, I told them before I'm not signing, and what I was going to ask you is, you played in the World Juniors. Like, if you had a 2-week tournament, the biggest tournament of your life, and Jim Rutherford said, I'm coming in to meet with you, is it offside to say, don't bother me right now? Or do you have to sit down with Danny Briere during the World Juniors?
Right.
I think before and after is a different story. But during the World Juniors, Gauthier's camp's like, I don't care that you flew over here. I'm playing in the World Juniors right
Dude,
now. I don't want to talk to you.
I met with Jim Rutherford 2 weeks after the World Juniors. I got a note, and my agent called me and said, Jim Rutherford is going to be at the game in Guelph. He would like to sit down with you after.
Mm-hmm.
I sat down with Jimmy Rutherford for half an hour, and he told me some stuff that I just kind of let it go in one. He was like, we got to sign you to a 2-way contract. And I'm like, I'm not signing a 2-way contract. And he was just kind of planting the seed, and I'm like, he was saying it, and as you say, I'm like, I'm not doing that.
Right.
But you don't just say, I don't know. Back then it was like, I can't miss that meeting.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I was so respectful of the NHL organization that drafted me. I'm like, I'm a part of that squad, and I'm not saying no to the meeting.
And I understand that, and you didn't have any animosity with the team, so obviously you would. But like you literally went 5th overall. This kid went 5th overall. Like he was at the World Juniors. You were at the World Juniors. There's a lot of connections there. But you played for Hartford. You signed. You played.
And if I ever brought it to my dad's attention that at the World Juniors in Red Deer, Hartford wanted to meet with me, well, that would have been before the draft, or no, it would have been after the draft. And I told my dad, I'm just going to ghost them, and says he would have not allowed it. He would have said, you get your ass over there wherever they want to meet you. And if you want to tell them you don't want to play for the organization, then that's what you tell them.
Right.
And if you need me to fly in there and sit with you, I'll do it, or the agent. But you're just not ghosting them and not answering.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think the ghosting, that it is. And okay, he's a young guy. It's still his life, his career. He's about to sign a contract. He's about to enter the NHL. It's a small world. But furthermore, he's got advisors. He's got family members. Someone should have said to him, you got to sit there and you don't have to explain maybe.
Well, what he has to explain is how did it go from sitting at the draft and getting drafted and shaking hands saying I was built to be a Philadelphia Flyer to a ghosting out of World Juniors and demanding to play somewhere else?
That I don't know, but I also, again, I'm not letting Philly off the hook completely. I've never seen what I saw last night. I've never seen a full-out attack from the CEO to the president to the GM to the coach to the media where it's like, this is what happened. And also, it's not 100% honest.
But Brian, I disagree. It's not an attack. They were asked about a guy just stiffing them.
Yes,
and then you respond to it. And who would be happy about that?
Well, they're not. They weren't happy. But they could have put their big boy pants on and said, because they kept saying, you don't want to be a Flyer, you won't be a Flyer. That's not true. He told you he didn't want to be a Flyer, and you kept saying, well, how can we get you to be a Flyer?
He said, we'll change.
Let's see if we can change your mind. So don't give me this. We have if you don't want to be a Flyer, you're not a Flyer. He said he didn't want to be, and they wouldn't stop. And I understand why they wouldn't, because he's a great player.
Yeah,
they wanted to entice him. What I'm saying is,
maybe they wouldn't stop because he didn't give them an answer. It's like, do you want to tell us why you don't want to be a Flyer? Maybe there's something we can do about it. And then it's just...
And that seems reasonable.
Ridiculous behavior where it's like, I'm not answering. I'm ghosting you. Can you imagine ghosting an NHL franchise?
That seems
Flyers of all organizations?
It seems wild.
Like, what a great place to play.
And that's what is kind of at the forefront here. If there was, for whatever reason, you don't want to play in Philly, you're in Anaheim now. And Anaheim has been in a bad place for a while, and it is still in a bad place.
Yeah.
And that's where, if you're Jamie Drysdale, this can be a make or break for your career because he's had injury problems. He's not the most sound defensive defenseman, but now you got John Tortorella. Like, you talk about going from the beach to Broad Street and, Greg Cronin to John Tortorella. It's a different beast, man.
Yeah.
But Drysdale's got a real opportunity to elevate his game.
Might be the best thing for his career.
It very well could be. And again, I understand why they had to get the message out because they want the world to know this wasn't art. We didn't want to trade Cutter Gauthier. Like, if you're a Flyer fan, you've been watching him for 2 weeks. You've been reading about him for 2 years. This kid is a stud. And he pushed his way out effectively.
But he's not the only player who's ever demanded a trade out or wanted to leave. Like you said, there's a number of different players who've done this, but the team has never gone about it in this way. I think that's what makes this such a weird situation. Like, I've never actually seen last night when it came out that he wanted to go, was this public knowledge or was that dropped by the team? He wanted out. So this is what happened. So we trade him away. Like, it was just very bizarre to me. They could have kept it in-house if they really wanted to. Just say, we thought Jamie Drysdale's a good player. Cutter Gauthier, he didn't want to be here, so he moved on.
Eventually, that was going to get out, though.
But to go that hard into it,
they're just answering the questions, though, guys. They're like, what happened with this guy? Well,
when was the last time a trade happened, though, and the CEO went out and spoke? Like, if the Leafs made a deal today, you think Larry Tannenbaum's going out there to say the kid, like, the CEO was doing rounds and then it was Jonesy, then it was Briere. I'm just saying you could tell the way Philly acted. They were kind of embarrassed that this guy basically ghosted them. I think they're pissed off that he ghosted them. They're angry they don't have the right player. But I don't know. Like, they got a good thing going this year in Philly. They're one of the great stories in the NHL.
Absolutely.
And that, again, I get it why they would be angry, man. This kid, he's a 5th overall pick. Again, that the Russian kid's coming at some point, and he looks like he's a stud. And they had visions of them growing up together and being, studs in the future. But I don't know. We need to hear more from this kid. I don't know if we will. I mean, I don't know what he's going to say. And Anaheim's under no obligation to do anything for anybody.
He would be very wise to address it. I don't know when he's going to do it or how he's going to do it. But if he wants to just, I don't know. He's got his own reasons, and his own reasons are his own reasons. But he would be very wise to come out and say, this is why I didn't want to go to Philly.
Yes.
As opposed to everybody his whole career saying, oh, you're that guy. Because he won't live it down, man.
Right.
He won't live it down.
But there's different rules for different players. And now he hasn't played in the league yet.
Oh, and wait, if he starts struggling, you'll get the business.
But
man.
like Lindros, everyone was like, what the hell do you think? And then he became Lindros, and you're like, all right. Yeah, and I don't think Cutter Gauthier is not going to turn into the equivalent of Eric Lindros in his prime.
No.
But stud players, they get treated differently. Different rules. That's why, again, if you don't want to be a Flyer, you're not going to be a Flyer. If a 4th liner doesn't want to be a Flyer, they just cut you. They don't care. No, the CEO doesn't even send me an email. I'll probably flush it. The reason the reaction it was because of who it was, because this kid is so valued. And
but again, what's so weird is they've known for a while. He didn't want to be,
but it didn't go. It wasn't public, which is actually somewhat beneficial for them.
That's what.
And Briere thanked the other GMs in the league, because obviously within the league they must have known this.
Yeah,
like they must have been calling around saying, "We got to flip this guy." I mean, evidently he won't accept our calls, and we won't meet with him, so we're gonna have to do something. And they decided. He could have really got greasy with the whole college. I'll stay in college and be a free agent. That's what VC did. That's what.
I give Jonesy credit too, because I would have found out his least likely destination. Like, where do you least want to go? And I'll send you there for less.
Well, you think it's Anaheim?
What?
Do you think it would be Anaheim?
No.
Who the hell
who
wouldn't
not
want
going to California?
Anaheim?
McTavish,
I hear you,
Zegras.
but that team's terrible
right now. But he's not there. But for the next few years, they can grow into a decent team.
Could they?
I
like him. I like
him.
McTavish. Anyway, it does. I'm not here to dump on Anaheim. I did that last week.
We used to get threats in Carolina.
No one cares about what people in Anaheim feel.
They got a great goalie.
That's a cut.
Terrific young goaltender.
That's what we need. Get the Toronto Sun down to Anaheim for an exclusive with Cutter Gauthier.
Oh, boy.
And the goalie as a side piece.
Yes.